Hey everyone! Happy New Year, everyone, too, and welcome to Zzzax of Life podcast, a Marvel podcast from Laughing Place. New Year, new Zzzax. That's what we say, right?
That's
I'm
the thing
I'm
we say.
Mike Mack. That's Kyle Burbank. Happy New Year, Kyle.
Happy New Year to you as well. Yeah, I actually have. Well, I've spoken to you a little bit, but haven't said that. So Happy New Year.
Yeah, I've been really bad about that. I honestly, yesterday just felt like a normal day to me, so I didn't even acknowledge that it would have
I
been New
was
Year.
shocked to learn today is Tuesday.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Forget about days of the week. They mean nothing anymore. But yeah, we are kicking off. Clearly, we are kicking off the new year on a good note here. But we're back. We haven't had a Zzzax of Life podcast since middle of November when we got the Marvels. So, and even that was a little bit delayed after that. But we had a new Marvel series, well, a season 2 debut on Disney Plus. And we'll get into a 2-week stretch of regular operation, kind of, because we have another Marvel project coming up very soon, and then who knows where we go for the rest of 2024, because it seems like the Marvel schedule is a little
It's
sparse.
stretched. It's getting
Yeah,
stretched now.
well, it's funny to say that this schedule of what we only have the one movie and then a few TV shows, probably that's a sparse schedule for Marvel, but yeah, so we won't be we won't be around as usual this year, but we'll piece together some episodes here and there for sure. We are live, by the way. Hi, Steven. Thanks for watching. If you have any Marvel questions or anything, and if you're listening to this later on Apple Podcast or Spotify or whatever else, we're not live anymore. So stop asking questions to nobody in your car. We are going to discuss the full season 2 of Marvel's What If. They kind of threw us for a loop with that release schedule. We're so used to having weekly episodes and then recapping them one at a time, but 9 episodes in 9 days was probably a little too much to do for us, especially over the holidays. So so we're going to recap sort of briefly the entire season 2. We're also going to share our rankings for each episode. Yeah, Kyle's got the big board up there. So you can see we are going to give our full rankings for all 9 episodes, which was really tough to do, in my opinion.
Yeah, we'll talk more about it when we get there.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, as always, we have to start off with some Marvel news. And like I said, our last episode was in the middle of November, so we have quite a bit of news to catch up on. So,
Dude, did you need me to get the stopwatch?
No, we're not going to do that this time. We are foregoing the games. No, how much is that cameo? No draft. Like I said, new year, new Zzzax. So we'll see if we finally eventually get back to regular operations. But with 9 episodes to talk about and a whole bunch of news to catch up on, we figured we'd just focus on those 2 things. So let's start off with the biggest story that everyone's been talking about, and that is that Jonathan Majors has been removed from Marvel, from Disney. So, everything that happened with his court case, obviously there's some more serious, more important news going on there that we're not going to dive into, but we are looking at this from the Marvel side, the Marvel perspective here. And I mean, Kyle, what are your feelings on this? Because I feel like there's a really negative vibe, as in, like, people are looking at this as being a really terrible thing that Marvel's not going to be able to handle. And to me, it seems like a fairly easy situation or a solution there.
Yeah, there's plenty of solutions, including just recasting. They've done that before, as you wrote in your article. I think there's plenty of other things people should be concerned about. Like,
Right.
If you're a Marvel fan, you should just trust that they'll figure it out and it'll be fine. I don't know why people are so upset about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think as recasting goes, this might be the easiest situation you could possibly have. This is a character who was already going to be variants of the original character that we knew. So
it's like a Doctor Who loophole. Like, wait, we could do anything.
Yeah, this will be the second Kang, I guess. There's a lot of different ways they can go with this, and we do have a full, as Kyle alluded to, a full article up on laughingplace.com detailing a lot of the different paths they could take. I think recasting is probably the way to go. I think you've built up this lineup of movies that are going to lead to a final showdown with Kang. I don't think there's any need to scrap all that. I know a lot of people are excited for the possibility of Doctor Doom taking over as the big bad and kind of getting rid of the Kang storyline. I don't think you need to do that. I think you still have Doctor Doom. You still have him show up or not show up, but show up prior to that and then be the big bad in Secret Wars as it is in the comics. But I think you stick to the Kang storyline and just recast the role. I think there's plenty of actors out there. I know a lot of fans want John Boyega, the Star Wars star, to step in there, and I think that would be a good fit. I think there's a lot of other names that would fit as well. But yeah, again, I think this character, it's completely fine. I think they even wrote in a way to recast this character within the story in Loki season 2 when we didn't see that package get delivered to a young Victor Timely. So I think you now see somebody else step in and fill that role as He Who Remains / Kang the Conqueror / any other variant name you want to throw in there. Is that what you would prefer? Would you prefer them to recast, or would you prefer one of the other routes?
I don't care, honestly. Like I said, maybe that's just stupid of me to be so trusting even after, there have been some missteps, but I think this is the sort of thing where, when their backs against the wall and they need to figure something out. I don't know how other people work, but for me, that's like when I come up with my best stuff. So I think it could be a blessing in disguise in a way.
Yeah, I think, I agree. I think it could work into the story really well. And one of the ideas I have, which will lead well into our next piece of news, is in the comics, Kang he goes by, his real name is Nathaniel Richards, the may or may not be father of Reed Richards. Tying the Fantastic Four there, we got some news that it seems like it's a very strong possibility that Pedro Pascal will play the MCU's Reed Richards. So, and just to kind of go off of what we were just talking about, I think you could also have him play Kang, have a little father-son thing with him playing both sides. I think that would be really cool. But yeah, Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards. What were your thoughts on this?
Well, I was wondering is he actually going to play the role, or is he basically going to voice it while somebody else is on the screen most of the time?
It's just a CGI Reed Richards the entire time.
There's like, oh, Reed wears a helmet now.
It's still just the Mandalorian helmet.
Yeah, the new Reed Richards has a code, and
yeah. No, I think the idea is to have him actually play the character.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that sounds good.
Yeah, I've had people reach out to me. When they saw this news, they were like, I don't really like Pedro as Reed. Everyone loves Pedro Pascal right now. He's one of the biggest names in Hollywood. But it is a kind of a weird fit. I also wouldn't have pictured him as Reed Richards, but I think this is exactly what Marvel needs right now. I think they need that big star to lean on. You have a lot of sort of up and coming stars. Like I think Simu is a big star in the making. I think Iman Vellani as well. But getting a name like Pedro Pascal in there to kind of play a huge role in some of these big movies coming up, I think makes a lot of sense. So I think this was exactly the big splashy casting that they need.
That's fair. Yeah, I don't know enough about Fantastic Four like you guys. Like I know you and Mike Celestino are really passionate about it, and so you really have these ideas. I actually never even seen the Fox movies, so yeah. So I don't have a frame of reference to have a strong opinion about it. But I know that he's, for being a jerk, is still like everyone's favorite character. It's a very interesting situation.
Yeah, he doesn't quite get the Cyclops treatment. Like Cyclops is a jerk and nobody likes him. Everyone still kind of loves Reed Richards. But he's a different kind of jerk. He's sort of just more aloof than anything else. But I would love to get Mike C's take on this as well. Mike is, by the way, probably the biggest Fantastic Four fan I know. So I think he's read all of the comics, which is just absurd.
That's a lot.
Such a huge number. So yeah, that's the big Fantastic Four news. We have the next movie after that. I think I'd have to look. By the way, we have a new page on laughingplace.com with the whole timeline of when everything is supposed to be released. I don't have that memorized right now, but I believe Avengers of the Kang Dynasty comes right after that. And we have some news regarding that movie, including the fact that director Destin Daniel Cretton has exited the movie. He was set to direct the next Avengers film. He is still on to direct the Shang-Chi sequel and the Wonder Man series, and that's probably the biggest component as to why he is no longer directing Avengers Kang Dynasty. That's a very full schedule there. So no director.
Or maybe he's not directing the movie because it's not the Kang Dynasty.
That's
no. I think there's probably a lot in flux with that movie. He probably won't end up directing whatever that slot Avengers 5 or whatever it ends up being, but I don't think it's impossible, because I wouldn't be surprised if they end up reshuffling some things.
Yes.
So yeah, it's not. It seems like, oh no, that was going to be cool that he was going to do that, but like you said, he's got a bunch of other projects with Marvel. Yeah. He's not going anywhere. So if they want him involved, I'm sure they can make a way to.
Yeah, and I'm sure he will. I'm sure Shang-Chi is going to play a big role in that, so I'm sure he will still have a creative hand in all of the Avengers movies as long as Shang-Chi is involved. And like we said, two other big Marvel projects. He's not going anywhere. He's going to have plenty to do. Michael Waldron was signed on to write Avengers: The Kang Dynasty now. So Michael Waldron, if his name is familiar, it's because he created the Loki series. He also wrote Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So if you like either of those, which if you're listening to this, I assume you at least love Loki, because I don't know a Marvel fan that doesn't. So I like having Michael Waldron handle these big projects. I think first of all, I think having that consistent voice in the writer's room helps a lot, and I think he's a good one to have right now.
Yeah, and kind of going to what you were talking about with Destin. That's his name, right? Destin?
Yeah.
It's kind of like how we had with, even though the Russo brothers were directing Infinity War and Endgame, the Guardians were still kind of overseen by James Gunn. I think that's kind of a good way to do it. Be like, okay, you're like the expert on this character. So even though we're going to have someone else oversee technically everything, like having these sort of I can't think of a good, so I like a football team. So you have a head coach, but then you also have position coaches.
There you go.
I think that's a great way to look at how when you're managing all these different things. That's the way that these movies will eventually be made. Now they can't be credited that way because of the unions and stuff, but I think that's a good strategy that they've probably used before to some degree, and I think will continue to use.
Yeah, you didn't see Avengers Endgame credits say James Gunn, Guardians of the Galaxy coach.
And at some point you're going to see Destin be like, I'm calling the Shang-Chi plays. You don't need to keep asking that.
A lot of things up in the air for Avengers: The Kang Dynasty right now, including the title of the movie, I suppose. But we did also get some news, sort of, regarding Thunderbolts. We learned a while back that Steven Yeun was cast. The Walking Dead star, Invincible star Steven Yeun had joined the cast of Thunderbolts. We got official confirmation that he will be playing Robert Reynolds, aka the Sentry, and that came from the Walking Dead creator Robert Kirkman, who was on who was being interviewed in a YouTube series, and he said he took a call from Steven Yeun and said, "I just got fitted for my costume for the Sentry." And he told us that, and Robert Kirkman was even went as far as say I don't know if I was supposed to say that, but what's Marvel going to do? Fire me? I don't work for them. So, and then Steven Yeun also went on to say, because his character that he voices in Invincible, which is an animated superhero show on Amazon, wears a blue and yellow costume, and he said, I guess I only play superheroes who wear blue and yellow. So, the Sentry
next.
Yeah, I'm all for that, actually. But the Sentry is a really interesting character, by the way. Not the Sentry that Kyle has a video game rivalry with, different kind of Sentry.
Nobody understands that, but
no, that's an inside joke for just the two of us, which makes perfect sense for this podcast. Sentry is a really powerful character. In fact, I think they describe him as having the power of, I don't remember the number, is it 1 million exploding suns or something like that? But he is also mentally unstable and becomes a villain known as the Void. So there's this whole conflict within him. And then he's also sort of the big gun for hire in a lot of different situations. So He's a really interesting character. I think Steven Yeun's a great actor. Love this. I'm really interested to see how he's involved in Thunderbolts. So, but I'm excited for the inclusion of this character in the MCU. More, I don't want to say urgent. Urgent's not the right word. It's coming up sooner, I guess. Imminent. There we go. More imminent Marvel news. Echo. We got the release date, which it's crazy that we have to talk about this as news because this was, it feels like forever ago, but it's been a long time. January 9th, we will get all 5 episodes of Marvel's Echo on both Disney Plus and Hulu. So we go from 9 episodes in 9 days to 5 episodes on the 9th.
And that's out in the evening, like the day, because it was the 10th and 9th is like the 6 p.m. drop or whatever.
I don't know that they gave us a time window for the drop.
Yeah, okay, I thought that's why they changed the date, was because I just assumed. See, this is where reading the articles that go up on our site really helps, but I just assumed it was one of those bits. So like Percy Jackson, they just did this where it's a normal release schedule, but they're like, oh, we're releasing it. They just did a surprise 6 p.m. launch, and I'm like,
right.
Just tell us if you're moving to this. Great, I like the 6 p.m. idea, but just tell us.
Yeah, I guess it is January 9th at 9 p.m. Eastern. So there you go. So it is that early drop, that early PM drop.
It's not 3 a.m.
Right, exactly. Yes. Which I guess is going to make for an interesting schedule for me that night. We'll have to talk about that after we're done with the show. But yeah, so we'll have 5 episodes of Echo out on January 9th. 9 p.m. Eastern, so 6 p.m. Pacific. How do you feel about Echo? Have you watched the trailers and everything?
I actually haven't. I saw my first little teaser. I forget where I saw that actually, but yeah, I saw the little teaser thing, and I saw, oh, there's a shot of blood. That must be what they're talking about. How brutal. I'm sure I'll watch it. Maybe I'll watch it while I'm like, looking away part of the time. But no, I'm excited about it. We kind of discussed the interesting situation where they have this Marvel spotlight that they're coming out with. And like, that doesn't make, why are they starting it with a character that we've already met and that has connections? But I've really come, since we were discussing, I'm like, okay, no, this isn't for us to be like, this is completely outside of the MCU. It's for other people to be like, hey, if you haven't been keeping up with the MCU, don't worry, please watch this show. Anyway, that's what I've come to decide.
Yeah, I do think it's still weird because I feel like they, with the Kingpin and Daredevil being involved in this series, it does feel like it's still going to branch out into future things. But I think you're right. It is from the opposite side of that, saying, you don't have to watch Hawkeye to watch this first. I also don't think it's going to be as violent. And I mean, it definitely looks like there is some violence, obviously, as there is always the case with a Marvel project. But and it'll probably be ramped up a little bit, but I also don't expect it to even come close to the Marvel Netflix series. Those got over the top sometimes. I don't expect this to get here. Let's remember, it is still going to be on Disney Plus. It's also on Hulu, but it's on Disney Plus. So,
but it is TVMA. So, I mean, if you have your settings below TVMA, then it's like it's not there.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's true. And I guess they do have things like Deadpool and stuff like that. So they could push the limits a little bit, but I don't expect it to go too crazy. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. I am looking forward to watching this, though. I will absolutely be binging 5 episodes that night. So we'll see how that goes. Speaking of Deadpool, by the way, we got some fun Deadpool. I don't even know if you can call this news, but there were some, as is always the case with the Marvel project, there were some set photo leaks and things like that. So Ryan Reynolds decided to get out in front of that and leak some of his own Deadpool images. As he has been known to do, involved with this character. And we use the term leak very loosely here because they're less than real images from the set of Deadpool.
I like the ones that Tony made. The 2 guys, a girl. Well, I guess 1 guy, a Deadpool, a girl in a pizza place.
I have not seen those, so I'm going to have you or Tony send those to me when we're done here. But
I thought it was the featured image, is it not? He used it for the tweet. Maybe he didn't use it for the featured image.
Yeah, no, no. So Ryan Reynolds released some fake leaks from Deadpool 3, where it's him and Hugh Jackman in full costume, but then there's always something else crazy going on. I think my favorite was the Predator, because I could totally see that actually being a real thing.
That one looked like real, but then the next one's like a weird Mickey Mouse with a money bag, and then Steve
Deadpool holding a bag of money and Mickey Mouse in the background, and so there were some really funny images that. And if you're not following Ryan Reynolds on Twitter, on X, sorry, I highly recommend.
I apologize for that.
I highly recommend following him there. He's hilarious. So find more quote unquote leaked images like that. We also got an actual image from Deadpool featuring a new character named Dogpool.
It just makes me think of Dogbert and Dilbert every time.
So you can see Dogpool on laughingplace.com. I don't know what Dogpool's involvement in the movie will be. I'm excited for this though, because it really feels like they're leaning into the wackiness of Deadpool while also playing with the multiverse, which makes this just unlimited craziness and probably just like off the charts jokes. And the fact that we have Jennifer Garner coming back to play Elektra, I mean, they're going to get into all of the worst pieces of Marvel movies and things like that. So I can't wait.
Yeah.
We got some animated news as well, as far as the Marvel universe is concerned. We have a new Wakanda series coming out. I believe they've said that this is slotted for this year, but I with all of the delays,
say things all the time.
Yeah. With all of the delays, I would not expect to see this. This series is called Eyes of Wakanda, and all we have so far is this short description. I'll read this here. Throughout Wakandan history, brave warriors have been tasked to travel the world, retrieving dangerous vibranium artifacts. This is their story, which I love ending with. This is their story.
Yeah, it's very Law and Order.
So yeah, I am obviously excited about that. I'm curious. Remember, we got news reports probably a couple of years ago at this point that there was a plan for a Wakanda series, and I think everyone assumed live action, and I think Ryan Coogler was going to be involved and everything. And I don't know if this is that series or if there is something else still in the pipeline, but
I don't know either. That's been my big question, and that hasn't really been answered, because this came out. No, this came during they did like a special event for What If Season 2.
Yeah.
And then just kind of announced some things.
Yeah, and that was the first one. The second is that we have a new name for what was Spider-Man Freshman Year. The animated Spider-Man series is now called Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which is, classic. I love it. It's also kind of a long title. So if we could just pull an Agatha series here and just tighten up that title a little bit for me, that'd be great. This is also set for 2024. Again, who knows? This one at least has been, in the works for quite a while now. So I would assume we're going to be closer to this one than we are Eyes of Wakanda. But again, and hopefully, fingers crossed on this one, but hopefully we won't be dealing with another writers and actors strike this year. So
I don't think there can, based on how contracts work, but I don't know.
Yeah. We'll say highly unlikely, I guess. So yeah, both of those set for 2024. Not a whole lot of new information, by the way, about Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. It really just gave us the title change, and that was it. Outside of the MCU, I suppose, but jumping over to Disney Channel, we learned that Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur Season 2 will debut on February 2nd on Disney Channel, and then following day on Disney Plus, so February 3rd, we will have Season 2 of Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. How much of the first season did you watch?
One segment that we watched a clip of. I still haven't. I mean to. I want to. I heard it's good, but I haven't had a chance to. Well, that's not true. I just haven't.
No, I mean, listen. It's not like there's a whole library of things on Disney Plus to watch. I still haven't finished season 1 myself either. So I'm definitely going to by the time season 2 debuts. Love this show. Love the theme song. It's worth it for the theme song alone. By the way, a quick plug for one of my other projects on Laughing Place. Ranked all of the 2023 Marvel projects. So that includes Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. So you can see how high on the list. There were 14 Marvel projects in 2023. So you can see how high Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur ranks. I won't spoil it because I don't remember. So, but yeah, really, really enjoyed that series and can't wait for season 2. Changing gears to video games.
Wow.
We had the Game Awards a few weeks back, and we got an announcement. First of all, Marvel Spider-Man 2 was all over the Game Awards. It unfortunately didn't take home any of the awards, so came up a little bit short of its predecessor there, but again, was nominated for almost everything it could be. So fantastic game. Highly recommend you check it out. But we got the announcement of a Blade video game coming, and I wouldn't even venture to guess a year, because with video games, who knows? They get delayed more than animated television series. So, but yeah, Blade, that's a character that's getting more and more in the spotlight these days, and probably not where a vampire wants to be, but that's where he is. And so yeah, we're gonna get a Blade video game. It looks like it should be really, really cool. Not a whole lot that we've seen from it, but there's some.
Did you hear the voiceover test for that game?
No, there was a voiceover test. No. Kyle catches me off guard with a Community reference. Well done. Starting off 2024, right? Yeah, so a Blade video game is on the way. Again, we don't know exactly when we will see that, but exciting for a lot of Blade fans out there. Jumping over to Sony's Marvel stuff, which I know is everyone's most anticipated, coming in the next. Actually, I think this first one is at least this year. We got a trailer for Madam Web. Have you watched the trailer?
No.
Let me ask you this: have you watched the trailer for Kraven yet?
No. Outside of the actual Spider-Man films, I haven't watched any of the Sony Spider. Like, I haven't seen any of the Venoms.
Yeah,
or I guess either Venom. Yeah. No, I haven't seen Kraven.
Yeah. Well, I will say, Madam Web, I think, looks better than Kraven. There's some interesting characters in this movie, at least. Jessica Drew, Julia Carpenter. There's some fun spider characters in this one, and it seems like a really interesting plot. A very psychological thriller, sci-fi type of movie that I think just looks more interesting than Kraven. So, I wouldn't say I'm excited about Madam Web. I know better.
Cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, cautious. That's a good way to put it. I've seen Morbius, so I won't get excited for another Sony Spider-Man spin-off movie ever again. But I think this trailer looked okay. We'll say that.
Fair enough.
We also got some news for an Amazon Spider-Person series. The writer Steve Lightfoot has been hired to write the Spider-Man Noir series, which will be coming to Amazon. Again, I don't think we have any timeline or anything like that just yet, but Spider-Man Noir obviously became popular with Into the Spider-Verse, and so I think a lot of fans will be looking forward to that one. I'm curious to see if they play off of Spider-Verse and make it comedic. Do they actually make it like a film noir type thing? Because I think that could be really cool. But we'll see how it goes. I do have higher hopes for that with it being on Amazon as opposed to like a theatrical release. So
yeah,
so we'll see. And final piece of news, and this will lead into our discussion of What If. Head writer AC Bradley, head writer for Marvel's What If, has announced that she is leaving Marvel. She has one more episode that she wrote coming up in season 3, and they released a tease for that episode.
Is season 3 itself not news? Because did we know that was happening?
We did, yeah. They announced season 3. I want to say San Diego Comic-Con is one of the conventions.
Okay.
When they released like a sizzle reel for season 2, they also announced that season 3 was coming. So yeah, and they released a teaser with the Red Guardian and the Winter Soldier running away from the police, and yeah, it looks like it's gonna be a really funny and action heavy episode. And that was I think AC Bradley said that's her favorite episode that she worked on. So then that'll be her final one. So there you go. She says she's just moving on to other mediums and things like that. So that brings us to our discussion of What If. And that means we are going to be sharing our rankings, which is going to be really interesting with both of us going back and forth on 9 episodes worth of rankings here.
Yeah.
I want to start off by saying too, by the way, I think I said this earlier too, but really difficult to rank these 9 episodes. there wasn't a single one that I didn't like. So
right. I wanted to make
nine.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
wanted to
like
make that
bad.
clear. Like, just because I'm putting something at 9 doesn't mean I didn't like it. I liked all of these episodes, and
Yeah.
also only watched each one once. There was part of me that wanted to go rewatch the entire
Mhm.
season before ranking them. I was like, no, I'm just gonna stick with my gut instinct. So these could change, but I do have my definitive rankings for now.
Yeah, I love definitive for now. I like
Yeah, it's like
um
semi-permanent.
right. It's only as permanent as you want your rankings to be. Yeah, I'll say I watched every episode kind of twice. Peek behind the curtain. I watch the episode and then I go back and kind of watch it again as I write my recap that you can read on laughingplace.com. So yeah, I kind of watch every episode twice. Let's jump into this because we have 9 episodes to get through, and we'll go through each number here. We'll start at number 9 and we will kind of discuss each one, but not go into full conversation about them until we both have them on our board. So you want me to start us off here?
Yeah, you can start and give your reasons for it. I might add a couple of comments, but otherwise I'll save it until I get to my.
Yeah.
And assuming we don't have the same one. If we have the same one, I'll let you know. But
yeah, well, watch us have just the. Actually, I think I have a pretty surprising one at number 1.
okay,
so we'll see.
you think
But
it's
I
surprising?
also,
What if I surprise you?
that's very possible. I also am surprised by my number 9, to be honest, because when they released the episode titles, this was one that I was most looking forward to. And my number 9 is going to be What If Hela Found the 10 Rings?
Okay.
So I love this concept. I really, really like it. And again, just because it's number 9 doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it. I really liked every single episode from this season. But I don't know. I think I expected Hela. I think Hela is a more interesting character in her villainous, form. I think making her, turn that corner and sort of having her play the hero to Odin's villain kind of made the character fall a little bit flat for me. There was the whole training montage in Talo that kind of, killed the momentum of the episode, I thought too. But still love this concept. I thought there was a lot of really cool visuals in this with the way, the 10 rings, with Wenwu, with Hela, with Odin, that made for a lot of unique visuals as far as fight sequences go. So I enjoyed that.
Yeah, when this episode started, I almost thought it was mistitled because it seems like, oh no, the 10 like Hela's powers are, but yeah, as it played out, I'm like, okay, I guess that was correct.
I do want to say too, I really liked the parallels of her story with Thor's banishment in the first Thor movie, and her trying to lift her helmet and all that. So there was a lot I liked about this episode, just not quite as much as some of the others.
Gotcha. Well, my number 9, also, again, I feel like I need to emphasize, not that I disliked it at all, was what if Nebula joined the Nova Corps, the first episode of the season. Nothing I didn't like about it, just kind of got outdone by some other ones. And I did like the humor of it. Like, it was cool to see Korg having Howard the Duck being a big part of the episode, voiced by Seth Green, was enjoyable. And it's kind of like a pastiche. Like, it's kind of got that like procedural vibe to maybe not procedural, but yeah, like it's a genre piece that I thought they did well enough, but just got topped by other stuff for me.
Yeah, I really like this one. I think this was a good starter episode too, because I feel like it I don't know, it was a very different tone, and yeah, had that sort of like almost like neo film noir type thing to it, where it was
I had a film teacher who was, if like film noir is a very specific time period, if it's outside of that, then it's a neo noir.
Yeah.
So thank you for I let you get away with it earlier when you're talking about Spider-Man, but yeah, neo noir.
Well, we can discuss more Spider-Man in detail later on, but all right, let's jump into our number 8. Let's keep this rolling here. My number 8 is going to be What If Captain Carter Fought the Hydra Stomper? This one, I really loved the setup. My favorite Marvel movie to date is Captain America: The Winter Soldier, and this was the mirror of that, right? This was Captain Carter being, instead of Captain America, we had Captain Carter, and so you move on from the first Avenger to now the Winter Soldier. Except it then kind of changed and also had a lot of Black Widow elements to it, which I still enjoyed, but I kind of wish they had been able to stick with the Winter Soldier side of things a little bit longer. Captain Carter is great, by the way. She really is the focal point of this entire season. Obviously, she's not in every episode, but she's in a lot of them and really carries the whole thing. So love the character. I think the cast did a really good job. Although there's another, so we don't always have the original actor voicing the character. Haley Atwell is one of them, but we have Lake Bell as Black Widow.
And I love Lake Bell.
She was great. We have another one that I think did an unbelievable job that we'll talk about later on. But so I really like the cast in this episode. I think they did a good job. Really like the story. Just kind of wish it was more Winter Soldier heavy as opposed to Black Widow.
I will say this was the episode where I remembered something we talked about last season that I failed to do, and I didn't do it until the end, and I wish I would have, and that is skip the credits. I love the credits. I want to watch the intro, but it messes me up because I'm sitting there the entire time being like, when's this person going to show up? I saw their name. So if you haven't watched yet, do yourself a favor and just skip that part.
Yeah, because we didn't actually give away who it is that goes up.
And it's and it's one of those things where there's kind of like they did last season. It's setting up something later, but it's distracting is what it is. It's not like it's a spoiler.
No, you're
it's
absolutely
just
right.
distracting me thinking that something's going to happen. But yeah. So my number 8 so far doing well at keeping choosing different ones. I'm going to take, as if it's a draft. What if Iron Man crashed into the Grand Master?
Wow. Okay.
So this was the one that was left over from last season, and it's kind of so that's what's weird is that I think maybe working in reverse makes me like it a little bit less, just because it's supposed to be like Gamora's origin story for being part of the Defenders or the Guardians of the Multiverse. But it's not really about her at all. And it was just kind of I appreciated the humor. The Jeff Goldblum stuff was hilarious.
Yeah.
And off the wall as you'd expect. I made a bunch of like pod racing jokes throughout. And but yeah, I thought that the Gamora part of the storyline was just kind of weak. Like, you don't have to do this, Gamora, you can be better. Like, it's just kind of hokey to me. So the way I'm talking about it, maybe I should have ranked this one last, but I didn't. So that's my number 8. And now that I'm done talking, I will add it to my board.
Well, it's funny because this was definitely one that I was not looking forward to, and I think now that we know that this was the one that was left over, I think if it had been in season 1, it would have hit better for you. Because it wasn't necessarily that, Gamora needed to be the main character. It's just that she was the character that was pulled.
Right.
But now revisiting that, it feels like, she should be the main character. I will say too, while we're on it here, and obviously I'll have more to say about this later, but Mick Wingert, I believe is his name, is the voice actor who plays Tony Stark in this whole series. Fantastic. There were a moment where I was like, is this not Robert Downey Jr. doing this role right now?
Do you happen to know, is he the same guy that does Iron Man Experience at Hong Kong?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Because whoever does that, I imagine it probably is him. But yeah, no, I think he does a great job.
Okay, well.
So that's the difference is like, for me, like, he's someone I'm not familiar with, but obviously we know Robert Downey Jr., so I'm like, oh wow, that's pretty close. Whereas Lake Bell is someone that I'm familiar with, and so it's impressive to me that she's able to not make me just constantly see Lake Bell, but also and not be thrown off that it's not Scarlet either. Like that's a different skill for me. Knowing her name.
That is true, because I had forgotten that it was Lake Bell until seeing the credits in one episode and thought, oh yeah, that's right. That's a very different actress. And she made me forget that. So it is a really good job by her. But yeah, I think Wingert was fantastic. Okay, moving on. We are on to number 7.
Yeah.
And mine is going to be what if Nebula joined the Nova Corps? So
Okay.
everything you said, yeah, I totally agree. I really liked it. I do have to point out, you already said Korg and Howard the Duck. Rock, paper, scissors, Korg, Groot, and Meek. That trio, I need more of that. I want a rock, paper, scissors
It's
comic
paper
series.
covered in rock.
Yeah, so that was a really fun. It's kind of the darkest episode of the whole thing, but also has some of the funniest moments. So there was a really good balance there.
Yeah.
And I actually now that I'm talking about that, I expected more darkness from this show, right? Like season 1, I mean, especially that Doctor Strange episode. There was some stuff in the Killmonger episode and a few others here and there. Zombies, obviously, but they didn't really go. This is a show where they have the freedom to just kill off characters at will because it really doesn't have any consequence. And they didn't really do that this season. So I was kind of surprised by that. I will say AC Bradley did address that in a recent interview, and she said they were writing this like peak pandemic. So they were like, well, the world is kind of so dark and sad right now. Let's add a little bit of happiness. So that explains that a little bit. But yeah, for the Nova Corps, Nebula joining the Nova Corps episode, I definitely enjoyed it. I liked the that sort of, again, neo-noir element. I thought it was a good place to start. Also, going back to what you were saying about the credits in the beginning. Oh, Jude Law is coming back for this. Didn't realize that. So that was really cool as well. So
yeah.
All right. What's your number?
My number 7 is what if, that gives it away. Kahori reshaped the world. And I wish I could say that part of the reason that it's this low on the list is wasn't just because I had to read the whole time, but that's part of it. But no, yeah, I'll admit that is something, because we're all sitting there with our second screens and stuff like that. So to actually have to pay attention, it's not my favorite thing all the time, unless I guess if I knew it was coming, then maybe it would be different. But the other thing about this is, like, I love, in the MCU, we meet new people all the time, and we're like, cool, it's going to be exciting to see them again in the future. And we do a little bit in the series, but to me, What If has been just about meeting new characters, but in a way that it's twists on ones we already know. Like, that's kind of the gimmick of it. So to introduce a wholly new character lacks a little something for me. It just makes it a little harder to buy in, especially knowing, like, yeah, we do see her again in the series, but not knowing if it's going to be in the actual MCU just makes me care a little bit less. And so it's not that it's wrong that they did that. It's just takes some getting used to for me. So just taking in an entirely new character, a new story, and having to read the entire time. Yeah. Just put it a little bit lower than some of the other ones.
No, I totally get that. And I'll have more to say about this episode later, but regarding the subtitles, that's the reason I don't, not necessarily that I don't pay attention to something the entire time. But it's the fact that I don't watch things with subtitles. Like, even like, I know a lot of people more and more are using subtitles just for clarity purposes, I suppose. Yeah. But I find myself just reading the subtitles and not actually watching and seeing everything else. So that it does take away from that a little bit. But I think given the circumstances and the way they did that episode, I think that was worth having.
Yeah, they really committed to it. Like, I thought as when she went into the other world, that there's going to be some cheat, like, oh, I can understand English now. I also thought it was really smart that they had the two different languages and different colors, even when she starts speaking Spanish at the end, like it was in the yellow. I thought that was really smart. And like the character herself, really cool, really interesting. Yeah. Just not what I expected from What If.
No, yeah. And we'll talk about that again in a little bit here, but we'll get on to my number 6, and that is going to be What If the Avengers Assembled in 1602. So this one was, whereas the rest of this, I believe, right? Yeah. The rest of this was all original stories. 1602 is an existing comic series, which I have a whole breakdown of on laughingplace.com. You can go and check that out. And this was, it was cool. I like the idea that they jumped into 1602. They obviously changed it from the comic series quite a bit because they don't have time to tell 8 issues worth of story in a half hour.
What?
But they did it. They did a pretty good job of sticking to what that whole thing was about. Everything from like the Forerunner and causing all the storms and everything like that. So they did a good job with it, and I think it was fun. Any episode that's going to include Paul Rudd is always going to be funny. So that was great. I love Roger's hood. That's fantastic.
I love that they made there be a reason that Captain America has a beard in Infinity War. Like what? That's next level continuity.
So yeah, I liked this episode. Again, there were just other episodes that I enjoyed a little bit more. Again, another episode headlined by Captain Carter, and they've done an awesome job with this character that they created original for this series. So, another plus there.
Well, my number 6 might surprise you a bit.
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna go with What If Happy Hogan Saved Christmas?
Wow. Yeah, that does surprise me.
This was, the front runner going in, just because we all know how much I love me some Happy Hogan. And yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was a lot of fun. I liked all the references, not just to Die Hard, but to the to other Christmas movies and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Love that Happy Hogan gets some superhero love here. And yeah, thought it was a good episode.
Yeah, no, I really liked it too. And I am actually surprised that you have it high, or I have it higher on my list than you have it on yours. It was definitely a really fun one. And this was, so Jess doesn't watch all of What If, but that we watched that one together on Christmas Eve and she really enjoyed it. So I think that might be, this is the gateway episode, I suppose. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. There were some weird editing things for me in this episode. Like there was a moment where Justin Hammer calls Darcy Friday, and I'm like, I don't know if that was intentional or if that was because there's no joke that he's playing off of there. I don't know what that was going off of. So it was a little weird.
Like a His Gal Friday, probably.
I guess, yeah.
It probably, yeah, it's a little confusing.
So yeah, there were a few weird moments like that, but overall, really enjoyed that episode. As you can tell by the fact that I haven't ranked it yet. So let's get into our number 5s, kind of in the top half of the season now. So, and my number 5, not too far off from yours, it is going to be What If Kahori Reshaped the World. I enjoyed this episode quite a bit. And, again, totally agree with everything regarding the subtitles and all of that. I think they did a really good job of introducing a new character because you're right. I was on the same page for the start of it. There's no other outside, Marvel Universe factors playing a role here. And until the very,
until the last 3 seconds.
Right. Yeah. But I found about maybe a quarter of the way into the episode that it didn't matter anymore. I was immediately invested in these characters, or at least in the main character. Again, knowing that she had a role to play in the series going forward. But I think they did an awesome job introducing this character, making me care about this character, making the character cool. Because, like you said, I think the idea of infusing these characters with the Tesseract was a really cool idea for creating a new superhero. So I think they did an awesome job. And then of course there's the whole inclusion factor inside of things too. So I think they did a really awesome job with that.
Something I forgot to mention when I talked about it, though, is I thought they did a really impressive job of making the humor stick, even though it's in a language I didn't know. Like, I forgot his name, but the guy that she's interacting with, kind of that.
Yeah,
he had a bunch of funny lines that like made me actually laugh out loud, even though I'm just reading them. Like, and
right.
Catching up after the fact, like the way he delivered it in the other language still worked. So I thought that was impressive.
Yeah, no, totally agree. I think there were still some funny moments in this episode.
So for my number 5, I'm going to go with What If Captain Carter Fought the Hydra Stomper, for a lot of the same things you said. Lake Bell, I was going to say, was one of the standouts for me. I thought it was fun with the place that was like all the animatronics of like American life. That was that was funny. don't remember if I have anything else to say about it, but yeah, I liked it. And yeah, forgot everything that I was thinking about it.
Well, no, the whole animatronic town thing started off. It was so creepy, and I was really into it. Like I was like thought they might go a complete like horror route there, but they kind of turned a corner pretty quickly there. But it was definitely a creepy moment for a second.
Yeah.
So as we if you could pull the board back up for just a second here, I just want to see as we're through our top or our bottom fives now as we get into the top four. What do we have? Only two that we've both listed so far, right?
Yeah. So we both done Nebula and both done oh no, three, right? Because
you're right. Yes, yeah. Nebula, Cohorty, and Hydra Stomper.
Yeah.
So let's get into our top fours here. I feel like at some point, given what we have left and the fact that there's only four to rank, we have to have some overlap. So I'm going to say my number 4 is going to be What If Peter Quill Attacked Earth's Mightiest Heroes?
Okay.
You had me for a second. I thought we overlapped there.
No.
No, I really enjoyed this episode. I love the idea of getting the Avengers together when it was like the precursors to the Avengers. So you have Hank Pym, you have Bill Foster, you have Dr. Wendy Lawson. So they did an awesome job bringing these characters together, and for a good reason. Oh, T'Chaka is another one too that I love the involvement of him. And I like twisting the Star-Lord story and making him actually get to Ego and get these powers well before he ever should have. So I thought it was a really good story that they put together for this one.
I agree. By the way, I don't remember what episode is in, but just a general thing I wanted to mention is I love how they do one in this, probably one of the weaker ones, honestly, kind of in that episode, but they'll have like little lines or things, references to the movies that you could either take as references or just twists on it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, those are always fun when they pop up. You're like, oh, hey, that's like that. So I like when they do that. This one was my favorite, but like I said,
there was one in that episode too where there was the whole comparing sizes.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I thought was one of the weaker ones. There's one from Captain Carter that I can't remember now, but I also don't remember which episode it is. I think it's probably it's probably from my number 4 pick. What if Strange Supreme intervened?
Okay. I was wondering where you would have this one. This was kind of a difficult one to rank because I feel like it is so different from the rest.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, we could see throughout the season that it was going to come to some sort of, crossover in the end. But I thought they did a good job at not just completely being a redo of that format. Mm-hmm. And I liked how much stuff was in it. I don't know if it was too much, but it might have almost been too much. And it was also kind of weird. Like you'd have these really fun moments, but then like the character didn't even speak. So that was a little odd for me. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, wow, cool. Killmonger from last season. But he doesn't even say anything. So it felt like more of a cheat, kind of like when you.
Well, they couldn't get Michael B.
characters and they don't. What?
They couldn't get Michael B. Jordan to come in. So
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like it just that part kind of throws me. But I thought it was an interesting idea to kind of take your hero. Well, it went from villain to hero to villain again.
Yeah.
But no, I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought it was a good way to end the thing. And then all of a sudden, yes, Kahori does speak English with no acknowledgement as to why. But yeah, I liked it overall. And yeah, I know this should be one where you probably want to rank it as your top because it does all of the things and kind of wraps everything up. But at the same time, I thought that it had a couple of flaws.
Yeah, that's fair. And yeah, I still have it on my list to talk about, so I will hold off until we get to that. But let's get into number 3. And my number 3, I know we're not going to overlap on this one because it is What If Happy Hogan Saved Christmas? Loved this episode. Like I said, there were a couple of little like weird editing things that probably kept it from being my number 1. But I mean, and Die Hard is far from my favorite movie, and they still got me with this one. I thought they did such an awesome job of recreating that while still making it original. They made Happy Hogan a Hulk, which is fun. And then had that come back, by the way, in 1602 later, which was really cool too. But
Yes.
yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. It was great to have Justin Hammer back, by the way, too. Having Sam Rockwell reprise that role was awesome. So and Darcy. I mean, any episode that has Darcy in it is going to get some bonus points too. So there was a lot to love about this episode, and the fact that it was released on Christmas Eve when everybody's just like in the height of the holiday celebration. They they knew what they were doing there.
Yeah, even though I didn't watch it on. But well, my number 3, and probably easily the biggest divergence yet, is what if Hela found the 10 rings?
Wow.
And I think you're, by the way, spoiler it's not spoiler because nobody knows, but Benji told me this was one of his least favorite right after he saw it, and I have to disagree, mostly because well, first of all, I thought Hela was funny throughout. I love seeing her interactions with Morris, but it made me realize how much I missed the Shang-Chi world. Like, we had that movie a couple of years ago, and then we haven't really touched it since. So kind of revisiting that made me excited. I like seeing that crossover, and I thought what they did with it was interesting. And seeing Odin as kind of a villainous-esque, I don't know. It was a little. I will say that it was a little confusing, the little turn there at the end. But I thought that Kate's performance and just the fun of the character throughout, and then Mac, it's an interesting crossover that I wouldn't have thought of. And like I said, it was fun. I liked revisiting the world of Shang-Chi, even if Shang-Chi wasn't in it.
Yeah, no, I do totally agree with that. I can't wait to get the Shang-Chi sequel, and I think this was a good sort of, not tease, but this is a good like way to hold us over until we get there.
Again, the line about the I'm not gonna get killed by foliage.
Right? Yeah, that was pretty good. No, she was really funny. You're right, and having Cate Blanchett back was really cool too. But I think Hela is just more interesting as a villain, and seeing her turn kind of took that away. Like, I wish they had just told this story with her as a villain. I also wish, and maybe we do still get, because we have season 3, maybe we get more of this, because we had Wenwu and Hela team up in the end there to create what should be an incredibly powerful force in the multiverse. So that should be really cool.
And I forgot to mention the Strange Supreme, that seeing them with all the stuff on, like, I want those action figures.
Oh, I'm sure Hasbro will have a wave from this.
Captain Carter with the Hela.
We're gonna talk about that a little bit too.
Okay.
Let's jump into our number 2 here. And I mean, I think at this point we know we have no overlap, so not a single one.
It's impressive.
And my number 2 is going to be, what if Strange Supreme intervened? The finale, I think it was a cheat code, right? Like, it was the story that pulled everything together, and yet did so in a different way than season 1, which I was watching this episode thinking like, okay, well, now you have the 2 heroes together, you have your villain, they're running out of time to assemble the rest of these heroes from other episodes here, and they're not really getting to it. And then finally, you just realize, oh, they're going in a completely different direction from season 1. And I thought it was awesome. It was epic. I mean, having Captain Carter, like you said, Captain Carter with all of the stuff she acquires in this episode. I mean, you've got the Infinity armor, you've got Hela's helmet, you got Mjolnir, you have this radioactive sword from some sort of weird Hulk. So there was a lot of really cool stuff pulling. Oh, the 10 rings as well, which I think it's Kahori that wields.
And I think Kahori has Mjolnir too, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, you might be right. But it was just having the 2 of them have all those weapons in one spot. By the way, the scene where they're like watching all the prisoners fall into the forge and then going back up, I was like, oh, this is the eventual re-theme for Mission Breakout, right? Like, that's what they're gonna...
That's true.
So yeah, I really, really liked it. I think I just knocked it down a peg because it was the finale. It was sort of the cheat code. It could have easily been my number 1. But
they also tipped the story a little early, in my opinion, by having who's the bad guy and going after Kahori, because you're like, that they're not going to make her the villain.
Right.
So if they would have just played it a little straighter and had
Yeah.
some other reason why he wanted, like, to, even if it was like, hey, we need a team and I need her, but she won't talk to me. Maybe she'll talk to you, like that sort
Yeah.
of a thing. Because by saying, oh yeah, she's a bad guy, go get her, then you're like, okay,
Right.
no,
Right. Right.
Strange is bad.
Well, I think if you had longer than a half-hour runtime, I think you'd see them flesh that out a little bit better. But you kind of have to.
And in the end, does it make that big of a difference? No, but I'm just like, okay,
Right.
I see partially where this is going, just
Yeah.
based on. I just thought it was a little early. That's all.
No, yeah, I do agree there. Also want to point out too that all of those crazy moments they threw in there, you get Thanos, then Thanos is immediately gone, then Killmonger's there, he's immediately gone. We got Zombie Wanda back.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
forgot about the zombies.
Hela fighting Surtur too. That was awesome. So there was so much crammed into this episode that's just like, honestly, it was a lot of fan service, but that gets me. It just that wins some points for me. So I think they did a really good job with that.
Yeah.
All right. So what is your number 2?
My number 2 is, what if the Avengers assembled in 1602?
Yeah, that makes sense. I noticed a few ago that you still had that out there. I was curious if that was going to end up being your number 1, but
yeah, I like. So this is a move. This is a show concept that I would probably hate in live action, because anytime I see anything set in England before like 1980, I'm immediately bored. So, but I thought that this one was a lot of fun. Like, they didn't overdo the setting with, like, the sort of jokes you would make in this type of property otherwise, but I thought everything felt, that had a really cool aesthetic. And I also appreciated the way that they brought the characters together, but then put them in sort of different, unexpected groupings in a way. And then, yeah, you mentioned the continuity of, to me, it was a surprise to see, oh, wow, Happy does have the same powers that he did in the other thing. I thought that was a really cool moment for me. And yeah, just thought it was a lot of fun. And like the way they did it, it was a little story wise, as far as like, it was you, Steve, like I cared less about, but there was enough that carried me through the rest of it. Like, yeah, the three of them, being like the Robin Hood character, I thought was a lot of fun. So I like that. And yeah, I have no frame of reference for the books, so that probably seemingly helped, because I put it higher than you. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I didn't actually. I read this episode inspired me to read 1602. I've been wanting to read it for a long time, hadn't gotten to it. I watched this episode and was like, oh, I got to go read that comic series. Really enjoyed it, by the way. I definitely recommend checking it out. And yeah, everything you said, I totally agree with. I think they did a good job with this episode. Yeah, again, it was just hard to rank all of these episodes, so it was a little bit lower on my list.
So now, when even though we can figure out what they are, we get to justify each other's number ones to each other. So Mac, go ahead and tell me why this is number 1 for you.
Well, what's funny is I was just looking at the list trying to figure it out. I'm like, I can't piece together which one is Kyle's number 1. My number 1 is what I think, just because it caught me off guard more than anything, because I watched, the trailer, saw what this was going to be, and I was like, that's not one that I'm super excited about. But what if Iron Man crashed into the Grandmaster was one of the funniest pieces of Marvel content we got in the past year. It was Jeff Goldblum coming back to be Grandmaster again. That was just top tier from everything in this series.
The only one with a post-credit scene too.
Yeah. I mean, so funny. He had so many laugh out loud moments, and yeah, I feel like it's rare for me, especially as I'm watching these shows, to review and sitting, in my dark room by myself, nobody else, or even in the house or anything like that, and I'm laughing out loud. That's how you know something is really, really funny. So definitely enjoyed this episode a lot. I get what you're saying about Gamora not being the main character and this being, but I think that was more, not even necessarily a storytelling thing, but just the timing and like knowing like, oh, there was this episode that was supposed to happen, then it didn't, and that kind of throws things off a little bit. If you can remove that, remove yourself from that situation, it kind of fits a little bit better. I do like Gamora's story there, because we did learn in season 1 that this is a Gamora that had killed Thanos. We get to see that happen. And then again, Mick Wingert, incredible as Tony Stark. There were moments where I was like, Robert Downey Jr. didn't return for this, right? Who is this? So yeah, really, really awesome. And Tony Stark with the Grandmaster. I mean, that's something we never got in the MCU, and that's one of my favorite things about What If is we get these combinations of characters that you never got a chance to see, and this was maybe as good a combination as you could possibly have. That's a future draft idea, by the way. I think we should maybe keep that on the list.
There you go.
All right, so process of elimination here. I'm trying to see. Oh, right, I know what your number one is. So Kyle, tell us about your number one.
My number one. What if Peter Quill attacked Earth's mightiest heroes? What I liked about this episode starts with how simple the twist on the premise is, but then it's completely unexpected from there. Like, it was a very clear, like, yeah, like something. What if Yondu actually brought him to Ego? Makes perfect sense. Like you were saying about the assembling the team, it makes perfect sense. Like the people that they got, but it's not something that I ever would have like listed out that way. Like, especially having like Bucky like on loan from the Soviet Union. Like that was really cool to me. And then the other thing that I liked about this is because I didn't know where it was going, to the point where, you know, when he's locked in the Loki, the Loki cell basically, and then Hope shows up, I completely forgot Hope was in there.
Yeah.
Was still in the episode. So that was like, oh yeah, they're both. So I really liked where it went. It continually surprised me, and I liked the team that they put together. And yeah, everything just worked for me. And so even though all these other ones liked a lot, that one just kind of kept coming back up in my mind. Especially because the title is not a lie, but I think the title speaks to just how many surprises or twists there are in this episode.
Yeah, some really, really cool action sequences in this too. Like some awesome, like that big battle against Ego is really, really cool. By the way, you can listen to Hope's playlist on Spotify. They released that after they released or actually, I think the day before they released the episode, they released that playlist, which was fantastic if you like 80s music.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, I agree. Everything you said. That was a really fun episode. Some great characters. I totally, didn't even think of it to bring up the Bucky situation. I think they did an awesome job with that.
I also like seeing Bucky was that the Hydra Stomper episode? That's probably why it ranked up. Like seeing Bucky as, whatever type of character, the general sort of thing, was kind of cool.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah. He was the Alexander Pierce in that.
Yeah.
In that one. Yeah. All right, so we're looking at our big board here. I'll run through my final rankings, and then Kyle, I'll let you do yours. We'll go from top to bottom here. I have Iron Man crashing into the Grandmaster, Strange Supreme intervened, Happy Hogan saved Christmas, Peter Quill attacked Earth's mightiest heroes, Kahori reshaped the world, Avengers assembled in 1602, Nebula joined the Nova Corps, Captain Carter fought the Hydra Stomper, and then Hela found the 10 rings.
And I had Peter Quill attacked Earth's mightiest heroes, the Avengers assembled in 1602, Hela found the 10 rings, Strange Supreme intervened, Captain Carter fought the Hydra Stomper, Happy Hogan saved Christmas, Kahori reshaped the world, Iron Man crashed into the Grand Master. So yeah, that's the biggest divergence. And Nebula joined Nova Corps. Yeah,
and again, I think it's not to say that Kyle didn't like that episode. It's just that it was so difficult to rank these because they were all good. I enjoyed every single
different.
One of them.
Like that's what's cool about this show is like we talked about different genres and different settings. There was ones that were completely standalone and other ones that ended with teases for the finale or teases. There was one where the Hela one just kind of ended with not a tease for a future episode, but just kind of tied it all together while kind of drawing a comparison. Well, not a comparison, but showing us the Thanos and Gamora, and it's kind of they're coming in. So just little things like that are kind of cool too.
Yeah, and it is really like comparing apples and oranges, so it's difficult to lay these out in any particular order. But yeah, definitely enjoyed season 2 of What If. Really looking forward to season 3. Actually, let's do this real quick. Would you prefer season 2 over season 1?
I mean, I haven't watched those in a while.
Yeah.
I guess Probably. I feel like these ones were a little bit more I don't know. Like I don't remember what any of them were except for like the Captain Carter one. I think my favorite ones and to evidence is like I said with the Peter Quill one is like a very identifiable twist, but then it goes off in a completely different direction. So like
Yeah.
the Peggy Carter one from the first season was like, okay, this is like there's so many parallels that it's fun, but it's also gets old. So I think this one also did a good job of course, your favorite episode was technically a season 1 episode.
Right.
But I'd say overall, yes. I think that they did some more. As I'm talking, I'm thinking, oh yeah, but they did zombies in the first one.
Right.
But I guess that would be the one. The Marvel Zombies was based on a comic.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, all the What If series in general is based on comics, but 1602 is a comic, so maybe there's that thing. Anyway, all that to say, yeah, probably, but that might be recency bias because I haven't watched the first one in a long time.
That is fair. I would say I think season 1 had higher highs and lower lows. I think season 2 was consistently better across the board. I think Marvel Zombies is probably still my favorite episode they've done. The Doctor Strange season 1 episode will stand out in my memory as being so incredibly heartbreaking. But I think, again, consistently across the board, season 2 was probably a bit stronger.
That's fair. Yeah, that Doctor Strange episode still we actually did rewatch that one not too long ago.
Yeah, I did too, and I think it was before Multiverse of Madness. I might have revisited that then.
Although in my mind, the segment where it's just the repeat lasts longer, and it's really just that first section. So I think I like the first half of that episode more than the second half.
Yeah, it does get into some weird stuff with
just
Agamotto.
Hey, hi, kill.
Hi,
yeah,
that too.
Like that's not as interesting to me as that Twilight Zone-esque circle.
But yeah, again, season 2, I think overall was an improvement from season 1, which leads me to get very excited for season 3.
And yeah, I like that they followed somewhat of the same formula as far as the finale, but mixed it up enough that it didn't feel like a complete retread. And I didn't exactly know it was coming because you get these like little glimpses of something, but it wasn't as like, they're going to do the Avengers with all of these like individual things.
Right. And especially with Strange Supreme sort of being the thread, right, that pops up in several episodes that you definitely don't expect it then what the twist that's coming. So I don't think as of right now we have any sort of release plan for What If season 3. My guess would be next year, but that's your guess is as good as mine.
St. Patrick's Day, maybe. Who knows?
Sure.
Well, just because we kind of made fun of it. It's like, oh yeah, what if? Let's do it for Christmas, and like, there's a Christmas episode. All right, that makes sense then. I didn't mind this like 9-day rollout. Like it was a good time for it, honestly, because I had. Like lots of people, I wasn't completely off of work, but I had the time to like watch a new one each day or, watch a couple if I missed one.
Right.
So I ended up liking this release plan more than I thought. And it was fun to rank them with you. So I'm glad that worked out. I'm glad we didn't have too obvious of a ranking.
Or try to draft the 9 episodes. That would have been a little bit of a challenge. No, I agree. I liked this release plan. I don't see them doing it like you said. I think the holidays is the right time to do it. I don't see them doing this like in the middle of July or something. I feel like that would probably, you'll see ratings kind of go up and down just based on the day of the week. But I'd be curious to see if they follow anything like that. Obviously Echo is going to be the first MCU project that gets dropped all in one day, so that's going to give them more information. So we'll see what comes out of that as well. That'll be interesting to see going forward. All right, that's going to do it for us for another Zzzax of Live podcast. Thanks everyone for joining us. I guess we're going to be back next week. We haven't really laid that out just yet, but Echo again drops on January 9th. So that's Tuesday. So we should have some time to come back next week and discuss all 5 episodes. Because we're not going to do an each episode breakdown when all 5.
We're not ranking them either.
We're not going to rank those either. Those will probably blend together much more than the What If episodes. So, we'll be back to talk about Echo at some point next week. So keep an eye out for our next episode. We are on Apple Podcasts. Be sure Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever else you you listen to your podcast. Be sure to leave a rating and a review. Check out laughingplace.com for all your latest Marvel and Disney news. If you're watching on if you're watching live on YouTube right now on the Laughing Place YouTube channel, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell so you get notifications for our various live shows. What else, Kyle? What am I forgetting? It's been a while since we've done this. So
I think that, well, you know what? If you're planning a trip to Walt Disney World or Disneyland or other Disney locations, be sure to check out Mouse Fan Travel. They announced some new Walt Disney World savings. We'll have more details tomorrow, the 3rd. But yeah, use a travel agent. It doesn't cost you any extra, and you get all the things that apply to you. And they also do Universal. So if you want to go see Marvel stuff, you can either go to California or you can go to Florida, but go to Universal in Florida.
I think Walt Disney World has dining plans back too, by the way. So, and those travel agents know how to book that stuff, because I don't. So
yeah, because it's on non-discounted hotel rooms, so they'll tell you whether you're going to save more money by doing the free dining or by actually using like a different promo.
Yeah, and
so that's a little off the Marvel topic, but
Rebecca has a link to close things out on a Marvel note. Rebecca has a link, if you're watching on YouTube right now, in the chat there. Our latest Marvel news. There's a link to that right there. That's going to do it for us. Thank you so much, and we will be back next week. Bye, everyone.